Well, it was a long journey coming to Australia, definitely. So I was born in Congo, Democratic Republic. And so from Congo, after the Civil War started, after the 23rd Civil War, I think, we went from Congo, Central Africa, went to Uganda, Nigeria, and then went down to the coast to Tanzania, and went down to Malawi. And then we lived in Malawi for 5 years, I believe. And then Australian Immigration Department accepted our claim as refugees, and we came here to Australia. Living in Malawi was a trip, really, because you don't realize that, you know, you are in that sort of situation because everyone that you see is in that sort of situation. You know, the idea of a class structure doesn't really exist because everyone that you see and everywhere that you walk is, you know, is in the same boat as you, really. So coming here and seeing that different levels of, you know, working class, middle class, and upper class was quite confronting for me because I just saw everyone as equal living in a refugee camp. So that experience there was deep because now that you think about it, you know, it wasn't easy because you could have been caught up in all the violence and the crime. So people who do make it out of the refugee camp are very, very lucky. I feel like really any word can have a positive or negative connotation with it. So the term refugee for me used to be something deep, you know, something welcoming. Because when I was living in a refugee camp, you know, everyone was refugee, and you'd walk down the road and they'll know you as, you know, you're this son's, you're this son's, you know, child, blah, 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 something like that, you know. But I feel like lately the word refugee has had a very negative connotation with it, you know, used in derogatory ways and with derogatory terms, and it has become a sort of stigma to be called a refugee. So, you know, I feel like the idea of a refugee as a person, you know, has really changed, and I feel like a lot of people miss the fact that when you're talking about refugees, you're talking about real people, you know, actual human beings, which I feel is quite deep because we've sort of moved away from that and just focusing on the numbers. So, yeah. When I came to Australia, it was very confronting. It was very, very confronting because firstly, I had never seen stop signs before. I have never seen like traffic lights. Like that was huge for me. I nearly died on the road a couple of times, definitely. Taking the bus, public transportation, the train, oh my, I've never been in a train in my life. And the train was just, it was like, you know, it's like one of those, it's like a spiritual experience for someone. For a person, for a kid who has never been on that type of situation, it was something that you experience really, really, really deeply. English, like the language barrier was huge for me because I never spoke English in my life, you know. So having to learn a whole new language, you know, was quite hard, And also just understanding in general, because not many people have experienced life like refugees, you know. Like imagine where you are now, like as a person, right? And just imagine there's a war just happens out of nowhere, you know, they starts fighting civil wars and all that. And then you're told that you have to leave your home, right? Your family, you know. My grandma, I miss my grandma so much. But you realize, right, that once you imagine that, right? Once you imagine really having to leave your home, right? I live just in Altona North, but just imagine having to pack up one day, you know, take nothing really, right? Just a couple of photos and then leave your home, right? And then go into a place or a different country where, you know, you're treated as, you know, some second class, you know, you're not accepted as who you are, and there's all this stigma and misconceptions of, you know, why you're there. It can be quite challenging, you know, for a person, quite confronting. And that's why I say, like, you know, the biggest help you can get really isn't the physical stuff, you know, because that can always come, you know what I mean? That you can always get new beds and new TVs, but it's the emotional stuff, you know, the emotional requirements, just being there for someone. I feel like that's very, very important. I think the biggest part for me in terms of how I was welcomed was having friendships. I feel like, you know, a lot of refugees have a lot of physical needs, of course. You know, they don't really have anything when they come here. But I feel like the most important thing that they need is the mental aspect as well. You know, when you come into a new country, you know, you don't want to be alone. You know, that feeling is sad, really. So having, you know, different friends come up to me, you know, different families come and talk to us and help us out and stuff like that. That was really, really important. And my family, especially my mom, has always been a very religious person. So going to church and the church welcoming us was really, really important. I remember I became an altar server at St. Leo's, the great church. So yeah, I became an altar server there once I started primary school. And just the idea that you're part of a community, you know, you're part of something bigger than just yourself, I feel like is really, really important, because that's what unites people. You know, when you can do something that is beyond just for your own self-interest. And now that I think about it, I feel like being an altar server was sort of like a way of me saying thank you for the welcome that I received. You know, I remember getting my first watch from the parish. That was incredible. That was really, really good. And I know it just sounds like such an easy thing. Oh, so you got a watch from Savers, you know, but I had never really owned anything of my own, you know. So just receiving that, for me, that was very, very deep. I think I still have it actually at home, because it reminds you of, you know, that even as people, when you know you hear all these misconceptions and about, you know, who you are or why you're here. Deep down, I feel like everyone has goodness in them, and to have that watch reminds me that, you know, at the bottom of every person, right, there's true light, there's brilliance, you know, that is unique, and that's why my passion, I think, also is about people, because that watch for me represents what I'm working towards as well. You know, one day I want to be also able to give a watch to someone who comes from a refugee camp. Yeah. Currently, I have finished year 12, the hardest year of any student, I think. And I'm going to Melbourne University now, doing a double major in politics and international relations and sociology. I am very passionate about, and it's something that I never thought I was, but I'm very passionate about people. Like seeing other people grow and develop. I love motivating people. I feel like as people, as humans, you sort of get, I feel like that's when you find your true happiness, like real pleasure. Real happiness comes from, you know, lifting the burdens of other people. I remember there's this quote by Charles Dickens. He said, you know, no one suffers who lightens the burdens of others. And I feel like that's so important when you're able to help other people. So I feel like I'm very, very passionate about people. And I think that's something I'm going to continue to do for as long as I live, yeah. I definitely still define myself as a refugee, 100%, because it's made me who I am, you know. It's part of my identity. It's part of the person I've become. You get to think, you know, so I'll be sitting there and doing the essays, and I'll be like, Augustin, remember, you know, where you used to be, and think about where you are now. And just that thought, you know, really inspires me. I know for some people it might be like, you know what, that doesn't really make sense. But like for me, that's deep, because it shows how much I've grown as a person and as a human being. So being a refugee, 100% is part of me, yeah. What I would like to say to other refugees is that to remember your light. It's very important. I feel like as people, we're born, everyone is born with a light, and your brilliance is your light. It is uniquely yours, right? That's something that it can't be taken away from you. It is uniquely yours, and you're here as people, as human beings on this planet, to express the brilliance that is uniquely you, and you're here, you know, as a person to be powerful beyond measure.